With the rapid development of the cybersecurity industry in recent years, various new types of cyber attacks have emerged one after another. According to statistics, the number of global malware infections has risen from 12.4 million in 2009 to 812.67 million in 2018, and the number of infections is showing a linear growth trend every year. No matter how strong the company's network protection is and how complete its security infrastructure is, it's impossible to prevent all network attacks, information and data breaches, or other network security incidents. Incidents respond as a structured process for identifying, analysis, processing, and recovering from cybersecurity disasters has become a necessary solution for every company. And the NIST Incident Response Framework is a mainstream framework developed by the National Institute of Standards and Technology to protect company assets. This cybersecurity framework is used by at least 30% of US organizations. In the future, the NIST Incident Response Framework will become the most used framework by American companies. However, in NIST, it's difficult to find its description of monitoring, which may lead to an increase in the expression of errors in the formulation and execution of response plans. Therefore, our research will focus on the monitoring process.
Here is the literature review and research questions. According to the NIST framework, we reviewed security incident response based on previous literature research. There are 4 phases in security incident response: preparation, detection and analysis, containment, eradication and recover, and post-incident activity. For these 4 phases, the incident response is in a cyclical state rather than a linear state. Preparation is the first stage of incident response of an NIST framework. An organization should be ready to deal with a cybersecurity incident before it actually happens and plan all necessary response procedures in advance. However, there is still a shortage of preparation phase that already exists on the market or in the literature. Listing companies assessed and clarifying responsibilities are manual operation process. Some mistakes are bound to happen. Technicians may ignore some assets of the company which may be important and indispensable. In detection and analysis phase, technicians collect data, identify attack vectors, and analyze instance information to find vulnerabilities and pave the way for the next phase. Technicians usually need to process a large amount of data. However, for some hidden and highly harmful vulnerabilities, such as an executable backdoor file, technicians sometimes missing them. In the third phase, technicians take corresponding actions based on the instance to contain the expansion of damage, eliminate all remnants of the cyber attack, and restore the attacked system to normal operation. If the attack type is incorrectly located or the sex identification is not accurate, the company may lose much internal information and be subject to 2 or more attacks. It requires technicians to have higher rich experience, and some hidden system vulnerabilities are often difficult to find and remove. When the intrusion is finished, the response plan has implemented and the assets are recovered, it is time to summarize the experience and lessons learned in this incident response process. The article found that in the post-incident activity summary, 88% of people believe that the original frameworks needed to be modified and improved. The original frameworks often become difficult to solve newly discovered problems. So the problem statement: with the development and progress of hacker methods, many instance response frameworks in the existing market are difficult to respond to changing cyber threats. Even the most used NIST framework is often not 100% effective. Therefore, it is time for us to develop and update a complete set of instance response plan based on NIST according to the specific requirements of companies. To deal with this problem, reduce the number of deviations from the instance response plan, and find out an improved plan. This paper investigated and researched through designing and using specific research methods based on the existing NIST framework, formulate a set of instance response plan with higher availability and efficiency suitable for companies.
Now I will show you our methodology. About the methodology, we expect to use the experiment designed methods to gather data. We will design two groups with a different response and recovery plans and compile the data from the two groups. Use the experimental design. It's clearly for us to get the difference between executing a new event response plans and a next response plans. For volunteer participants for experimental designs, we want to find two security responsible teams from cybersecurity companies. Each group of the employees should be 10 persons to 15 persons. Everyone on the team should be fully trained in security incident response and should be familiar with the NIST and ISO procedures. About the various steps of the experiment, we will divide two groups. One is a treatment group, other one is a control group. Treatment groups use the new response plans. The new response plans is experimented to add mandatory steps to NIST's existing space, and the control group using the NIST event response plans. We will use the same cyber attack to attack the sites that are allocated to the group. Then, two groups use their own response plan to handle the attack. Both groups of employees need to complete their assigned task according to the accident response plan. After the event response is complete, we will collect data generated in the treatment and control groups. And we will calculate how long it takes to implement the plan, how much it costs, and how many mistakes employee made in implementing the plan. Collecting their data will help us find a better way to find and improve the responsible plan. We will make predictions about the possible results of the experiment. In the first figure, we can see the deviation value of the new response plan at each stage are smaller than next responsible plan. This means the number of the mistakes made by employee using the new response plan was lower than the number of the mistakes made using the next response plan. The second figure is the cost estimations caused by the using two event response plan in this experiment, including tangible costs and intangible costs. We can see that the new response plans result in lower loss than the next responsible plan. The third figure shows how long it may take for the team to implement two incident response plans. We can see that the time spent on the both project is similar, but it has a slightly difference between the initial and the final phases.
Our expected results are presented in three figures. In the new model, we plan to reduce the number of deviations in the incident's response plan by 30%, especially at the highest points of CNE. we plan to reduce the number of deviations by 40% to 50%. In the cost, we plan to reduce the loss of tangible assets by 30% to 40%, and the loss of intangible assets by 20% to 30%. Our final goal is to reduce the number of deviations and cost when the average response time of the two models is almost the same. Finally, we plan to use formulas to qualify the results of our research. Risk equals cost multiplied by possibility, and cost is equal to tangible cost plus intangible cost. If the cost 1 is greater than cost 2 and the likely is same, then risk 1 is greater risk 2. Based on the original NIST framework research, we will improve the incident response plan by adding a monitoring phase in the life cycle. We will study the incident response plan from two aspects, time and cost. At the same time, this also reduces the post-disaster loss of the company's tangible and intangible assets. Through the monitoring phase, the company can respond more calmly and effectively in the face of various cyber attacks. Through investigation and research on response time and cost, we have designed formulas to prove that our method can reduce the company's losses within a acceptable time. In the future, we believe that the monitoring phase can better protect the company's assets.